on the knowledge, the experience, the life journey of these two individuals, and now to synthesize it with our aspirations as student leaders or as citizens once we transition outside the campus. Ni sawa sawa? Is that okay? Is that fine? Asanteni sana. So thank you very much for making time to be with us, Cyprian. We appreciate your time. Now, just with the brief introduction, just tell us who you are and what do you do in terms of the conversations of the country, in terms of leadership and governance.
Thank you very much, Gail. I hope I am loud enough for those who are at the back. I was just telling Honorable Few that when we were in university, we never used to be this beautiful and calm. And I don't think we used to be this colorful. These days, I don't know what they are eating. They are looking very wonderful. Mm-hmm. And the young men are quite chilled, quite calm. They even shower a lot. When we used to be on campus, things were different. Mm-hmm. So I am Cyprian Nyamwamu, and the people within my circles call me Mutumishi. Mutumishi is the one they prefer. Cyprian Nyamwamu. And I'm going to be 49 years in May. I say that deliberately so that people can place themselves how to relate with me. Everybody in this room is probably the age mates of my nieces and nephews and my daughter, the one who is in university. And in terms of where Kenya is, I come from the tradition of the first liberation, the second liberation of the country, and now what we call the third liberation of Kenya. I am very happy that I led the country in delivering the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We gave birth to devolution, and since 2011, all the work I've been doing is to support the implementation of the Constitution. In terms of devolution, in terms of the judiciary, in terms of the legislature, and in terms of policies that the executive is doing. That's the work I do, and I do this from the Future of Kenya Foundation. It's a foundation we put together 11 years ago to support research, capacity building, and policy formulation. And that's the work we've been doing over the last 11 years at the Future of Kenya Foundation. I think I'll say a little bit more about myself as we go on. I didn't want to say that in 2027 I'm going to run for the Nairobi governorship, and the beauty is that the gentleman to my left, the Honorable Few, may very possibly be my running mate. That election. Because when I met him as a fresher to the county assembly, and what he has turned out to be since 2014, when we first interacted, is that he has grown so significantly and he is so influential. Anybody who's going to think about Nairobi will need to locate and place it somewhere.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. So, Honorable Karibu.
Thank you so much, teacher. I call him teacher because he's my teacher in one way or the other. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon.
My name is Efio Nefio. I represent Karura Muthaiga, that is in Westlands, in Nairobi City County Assembly. I've served as an MCA from 2013 through the National Alliance Party, and now for a second time through the Jubilee Party. More to that, I'm very passionate about planting trees, and I'm associated with the success of what is Karura Forest. I also serve as a NEC member of Kenya Young Members of County Assembly, and I'm happy to visit JKUAT. This is my very first time to come to this university, and I'm happy that we can have a meaningful engagement this afternoon. And I must also say I'm very happy with the incoming governor. And yes, incoming governor. Our dreams are varied, so we'll be there to support you in one way or the other. And thank you for the offer. I have witnesses.
Yes.
That I'm a potential deputy governor of governor. So if there's something I will take home is that, and I take home dearly that statement. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Exponential.
Asante. Thank you.
Now, Cyprian, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
You are a very vocal individual on matters governance in Kenya, particularly not only looking at leadership, but also looking at matters of country investments and policy direction. Now, as you transition yourself from your career coming up, and now you are seeking to lead the county 47, what do you take of the concept of humility as a leader in relation to what we are seeing currently in the leadership that we have?
Thank you very much, Gail. And to answer that very directly is to say that I actually feel very constrained that I'm seated. Those of us in politics,
yes,
you move around.
Yes.
Feel very constrained,
yes.
You know, if especially our eyes are not meeting with the eyes of the participants.
Yeah.
We feel like we are caged. But let me say this, that servant leadership, which is the reason I am called Mtumishi, servant leadership is a requirement of leadership. If you are not a servant leader, you are a dealer. There's a difference between leadership and the dealership. The crisis we have in Kenya today is that we have a short supply of leaders, and we have an oversupply of dealers. People across government, whether they are in the judiciary and they are judges, people in members of the Senate, National Assembly, and even some of the friends who Honorable Few works with at the county assembly, the county executive, and so on and so forth. It is really a crisis because we only have dealers. People are asking, what is in it for me? Not what is in it for the people that I serve. That actually is the crisis of Africa and is the crisis of Kenya in the current situation. That people go to office to serve themselves instead of serving the people who mandated them to be in office. In the crisis, I want to say why the crisis has become so apparent in the country is because most of the people in office today were not part of the liberation struggle of our country. They don't know anything about our first liberation. They don't know about the second liberation. And they do not know about the third liberation of our country, which is the economic and social liberation of our country. So that is the crisis we are in. And I'll give you one example because that is what Betty asked me to do today. The people who are part of the struggle, I'm giving the example of my mentor, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, when they are given the opportunity to serve, say, for example, in Makueni, and by the way, Alois comes from Makueni. I don't know whether I told you that. These are people who look at office as an opportunity, as a privilege to serve the people. And they do it understanding that you are only part of a journey, part of a country that is evolving. And that is what Africa is lacking today. I want to pause there, just to say that the crisis we have is the crisis of dealership instead of leadership. If we can resolve that problem, and have men and women of values as servant leaders in office, our country will be translated immediately.
Now, in that regard, do you think that challenge is a challenge based on the people who vote or the people who are voted? Or is it a challenge which is institutionalized, which means that even the colleagues here from JKUAT, once they transition into elective leadership, might fail to make that change? What is your opinion on that?
So now I can speak as a teacher of political science, because that's what I studied in my undergraduate. I want to say that governance is seen as follows. There is the demand side and there's the supply side. Now, the people who vote are on the demand side. And then there are the people in office who are on the supply side. To put it very simply, supply is directly proportional to the demand. If there's no strong demand from the people, the supply is going to diminish like it has diminished in our country. It's because there is no demand. Do you know what weakens demand? 3 things weaken demand in a democracy. The first thing that weakens demand is the division around ethnic divisions. So that is mwizi wetu. That is our thief. That is our whatever. So tribalism and the division around what divides us as a people is what reduces the demand, number one. Number two, it is bribery and corruption. And number 3 is disinformation. So an average Kenyan is so brainwashed and so disinformed to the extent that they do not even relate. There's no understanding the relationship between their lives and what government does. In the Gen Z last year started to turn that tide around. They said we are tribeless, we are fearless. They even said they are partyless. Because that is what united all young people. And they became such a force until they had to be listened and they actually turned the tables. That is how demand looks like. Gen Z is how demand looks like. If you strengthen the demand, the supply goes up. But if the demand goes down, the supply comes down to 0. So if there's 70% demand, you are likely to get about 40% supply. But if you bring the demand down to 30%, supply will go to 6%. So you have to understand that every society moves at the pace of the citizens.
Now, Honorable Member, it seems that based on Cyprian's illustration, there is a huge mountain of a task in front of you. Now, looking at how the leadership of the country is, whether to say it's ethical or not, it's a discussion for another day. What motivated you to get into this position, bearing in mind we have this contextual challenge that Cyprian has just enumerated for us? Do you think you are in the right place? Do you think you are motivated by the right factors so that we ensure that this supply and demand is constant? What is your opinion?
Thank you on that question. I vied in 2013, but I started my journey in 2011. After
You must have been very young.
Yes, at 23. At 23. But the main motivation then, or the main vision then, was where I'm born. I'm born in a village next to Runda Estate. It's called Muji wa Huruma. Mm-hmm. If you walk in Karura, there is a village down there. So I was born and raised in that village. And that village has been in existence from 1979. These are the peasants who used to live in now what we call Runda, which was a coffee plantation. But when it was bought by my property, the new owners needed to evict the peasants who used to live in what is now called Runda. So the generations that have been in Huruma have been squatters for a long time. So as much as I was living in that village, there was that fear that one day, because you have a rogue county, city council or national government, one day people might be thrown out. So for me, the motivation was to seek a position of an MCA because it is a position of influence, and influence the squatters to be given allotment letters and also titles. So that was the main motivation that made me go into politics. But of course, I was renowned in a way in the community, having served in church and also youth groups. Of course, Karura does not. Huruma is not just. Huruma is part of Karura, but Karura is a greater ward. So after I was elected, you have now to have a bigger vision beyond the village, and because of exposure and workshops that you would go, you are able now to become a good leader. But when you are elected, you go to this county government, or you go, in my case now, serving in Nairobi City County Assembly and Nairobi City County government, things are different. Remember, here you're just 85 MCAs. The elected leadership is just 85%, plus the governor and the deputy governor, and you have also the CEC. And incoming governor, you have to listen to this keenly. So you have less than 100 people who have been elected and given mandate, but you have another 18,000 people who work in that that county government or in that government. And some of these elements are entrenched cartels that would even recruit you. Because when you're elected, you're not a procurement officer or a human resource officer. So those are the people who, in one way or the other, recruit you from giving your services as a leader, and you become a dealer. So it becomes a dealership. Because out here, everyone wants to work with government. Even big corporations want to work with government because government has resources, government has monies. But my point is this: you might be a very good leader out here, but when you go into these systems, there are entrenched cartels and bureaucracies. So we must now go beyond even pointing at politicians. We must look at these technocrats because they form the greatest. They have the greatest number in these governments. They are the professionals, and politics is very transient because you're elected today or even serve for 10 years. But there are people who work there, who, in my opinion, are the main challenge that we are facing. We might wipe away all the politicians and even have newer politicians. So, but whoever goes into politics, and especially a governor or even say a president, because these are the people who have executive power. Because an MP or a senator or an MCA, the main role is to register it and make laws. But people who implement these projects, and where real corruption happens is where you have bureaucracy, where you have to procure services and goods. So for me, I also see university and student leadership as the incubation stage. Right. And I'm happy that you are inviting people, actors who are in politics, and people who aspire, because eventually these are the leaders of today and tomorrow. But also leadership starts with you. You know, it's a reflection of who you are, and also as a society, the kind of leaders that we have at community level, local level, national level. It's a reflection of who we are, because it's us who have given these guys mandate. Or either we are foolish enough and they are clever enough to lie to us to get them into office. And lastly, Mwalimu, I'm also happy that you're transitioning now from activism to real politics, where you want to take charge. And we wish you the very best in this journey. Thank you.
Now, you mentioned you were elected at a very open and closed quotes tender age.
Yes.
Now, we know very well elective politics in Kenya is highly commercialized. Yeah. Now, to the individuals who are in front of you who might be seeking to be elected, be it as an MCA, an MP, or there alike, would you say it is imperative for them to be millionaires to be elected?
Okay, I would say no and yes. And also, when I go back to 2011, 2012, 2013, I must say I was least from age to resources and networks. But it's how you are able to organize yourself within the community. You might not have those resources, but you be in a position to tap into contacts within your community, and also get these resources. Even these guys, for example, our current president didn't have all those billions to campaign, but he was able to eloquently sell his manifesto, and there are people who bought into his candidature. So if you wait to become a multi-millionaire to go into politics, you have to wait and wait and wait. You have to use people as a resource. And I would give an example. What I did is to even do a fundraising in the village. I knew so much, they didn't have much to give. But I knew if they could give 100 or 200 or 300, they have shared into my vision. And for me, it was an emotional game. Whether I'm there or not, they would fight for me because they have a stake. So it's to make sure that your community has a stake in your leadership and your aspiration. It becomes them, not you. It's become a communal dream and communal vision.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Cyprian, you're now going to transition into a honorable if everything goes well in 2 or so years. What is this motivating factor? Because you're a powerhouse on matters governance in Kenya already. What is this thing that is making you feel like if you access those positions, you can be able to influence the submissions that you make around governance in Kenya much more effectively?
Thank you very much, Gail. Now, I mentioned Professor Kibwana deliberately because he's my mentor, and what we did in Makueni was to demonstrate that when an ethical, transparent, accountable leader is in office, the resources that are available actually expand. During his tenure at Makueni, donors increased their investment in Makueni because Kibwana used to say, don't deposit the money with us. Identify the project, we'll give you our chief officer and the director, and the project will be implemented directly, and we will only do monitoring and evaluation and reporting. So you will find CEDA Canada, CEDA Sweden, you will find this organization funding the Mango project, this one is supporting the hospital, this one is supporting the water project. And good leadership changes lives because the resources that are available increase instead of decreasing. Where the Honorable few is in government, you saw the governor paying out 12 billion shillings to lawyers. That's in Nairobi. 12 billion shillings to lawyers' fees. When we were doing the calculation, we realized that if you can employ 11,000 young people, that's 130 per ward, 11,000 young people, at 25,000 shillings a month, you can actually pay them for 48 months, which is 4 years. So resources have never been a problem in Kenya. The only problem we have had in Kenya is of the management and the leadership that is in place. So that if you have a governor and if you have a government where the leader does not have room for corruption, the resources actually double. They actually, go up. Because if you have a government like Kibwana could deliver an hospital for 140 million, which the next county used 1.3 billion. I don't know whether you are getting me. It means that one government is using, and I saw Honorable Ndini Nyoro actually do the mathematics, that with the same amount, 1 million shillings, he is able to deliver 3 times what another MP is able to deliver. Kibwana was able to build an hospital at 140 million, and the next governor is building the same hospital at 10 times the cost. So when you have a corrupt governor in office, your resources diminish times 10. But when you have a governor who is not corrupt, what happens is that the resources actually grow times 3. Because you can do much more with the same amount of money. And because of that, everybody wants to invest there. So this company is saying, can we open the Toyota distributorship in Makueni water? And so on. So he's saying, can we build this here? Can we do this project? Because the value for every shilling is, you are able to account for it. And everybody wants to go around, write a report that we only had 40 million, we invested in Makueni, and we were able to touch 36,000 women. Rather than going to a county where you put in 40 million and you only reach 1,000 women. So there's a massive difference there. So the reason we are coming to the executive side of government is because I have been able since 2013, actually since 2011, because I was helping the transitional authority, which was headed by Kinuthia Mwangi that time. And we were able to make the 6 laws, what we call the devolved government laws and the policies. And then we transited into 2013 and we started building the capacity. And I have been able to help 36 county governments, from Mandera to Migori. You understand? Building the capacity of county assembly members in terms of how to legislate, building the county public service boards in terms of how HR policies and whatever can be done. And then going to the county executive and helping ministries when they are doing their agriculture, sports, gender policies, and so on and so forth. So that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years. And we are at a place where now Nairobi needs the kind of leadership that can be able to turn the resources that we have to create the miracle. Because if you liberate Nairobi, you are going to liberate Kenya. And once you liberate Kenya, then Kenya will start to lead Africa. And so when I see Badili Africa, it has to be understood that leadership is at the core of Africa's transformation. Leadership is actually at the core of Africa's transformation. And I want to close by saying that change comes in 3 ways. In change management, we say that change comes in 3 ways. We call them the 3 C's. Change comes through crisis. An example, Donald Trump has come to the US and he has cut US aid. There's a crisis. We have to change how we fund healthcare, for example. So that's one way how change comes. It comes through crisis. Change comes through choice. You are addicted to alcohol and you make a choice and make a decision and you say, I'm changing now. All right? But also change sometimes comes by chance. You didn't anticipate, a development happened, you became orphans, and then that forced you to change. You were 12 years, you start taking care of 3 siblings. So chance sometimes causes change to happen. In our instance, we want to bring about change by choice. We want to bring change by choice because we know the 12 functions of governance. And we've practiced those 12 functions of governance, and we know that in office, with the experience that we have had working with 36 county governments, we will be able to demonstrate that Nairobi has the sufficient resources to actually deliver services and change the lives of all our people in Nairobi. And so young people are going to be at the center of the transformation, the miracle, the revolution. And I keep going back to Gen Z because they had been ignored for so long until they decided to step up and show the country that they are tired of what our parents, their parents, your parents, I'm talking about your parents. You know, your parents, us, we had this thing of we can take so much bullshit. Excuse my French. But young people don't have space for that. You know, during our days, even when we were dating, Betty would know a little bit, although she's younger, would know that we never used to have a problem. You would send money to your girlfriend and she doesn't come. For us, that is okay. I mean, you move on with life. But these ones, they send fare and you cooler, you are in trouble.
Yes,
so these ones don't take a lot of crap. And that is what is going to cause the change that Kenya wants. These ones are impatient and they do not have the room for corruption, for lavish living, for all the wastage. That is the force that is forcing Kenya to change.
Very well. Now, Badili's project looks at a few things in terms of the value that they bring with engaging with these young people.
Yeah.
One of them is constitutionalism and governing by the rule of law. Now, in your opinion, as you get into this space, do you think your potential voters are the right place to vote for you on issues, or they are still going to vote for you based on who is Cyprian in terms of tribe, in terms of connections?
These young people are the salvation of Kenya. I have so much confidence in them. I participated very actively in raising, from when he came to the county assembly, working with them, showing them what they can do, giving them the confidence. We formed the social justice centers, which some of you have read about. And from the social justice centers, you saw young people starting to say no to extrajudicial killings. Until last year, most people think that last year just happened. It didn't just happen. There was a long process of about 12 years there of giving young people an alternative way of looking at things, which is what led them to step out and to speak. So I am very confident that these young people actually truly believe that they are tribeless. Even when we try to tell them, like Rigiji is saying, Kikuyus, what Wamuri, they look at him and they say, what is this guy talking about? And Rigiji is coming from the 1970s. He's coming from the 1980s when he was in the university, and they used to have Moranga Students Association, Meru Students Association, whatever. These young people are not in Kisii Welfare Association. They don't care about those things. That is where the difference comes about. They are tribeless. They look at things from, is that factual? Which section of which article of the Constitution tells you can be able to do that? When they went to the finance bill, it was not generalization. They were saying, we've read the finance bill, and the sections that we don't agree with are the following, and because it is so bad, we reject it. They are a different crop of citizens, and they are going to be the force that is going to change Kenya for good.
Mheshimiwa, you mentioned that networking in your path to leadership was a very, very core component of ensuring that you're able to secure that position to be a leader in society. But we also know that historically in Kenya, people, if they invest in your political campaign, they expect some return on investment. Now, what have you learned from your so-called teacher, Mr. Cyprian here, and other people in that journey of ensuring that your networks do not become a noose around your neck when you're in leadership?
Just to connect to what you have said about networking, and also as a leader, you have to keep on learning. Mm-hmm. So my first encounter with Cyprian was in 2014 at a workshop in Thika. And if there's something that I took home is when you said leaders have to be honest. And you gave a practical example that we have to be truthful in this way. If I meet you today, you have an ask from me, it's possible to tell you, hii tutaangalia kesho, thinking that kesho haitafika. So, and that's why you will go to people who are in leadership position, especially politicians, they keep on giving promises, thinking that tomorrow won't come. So I have been able to unburden myself by being truthful. Yes. If it's possible, I say, it's not possible. If it's possible, I say it's possible. And that has helped me in my journey. Even when I see your call, I'll be able to respond to your call. When I meet you in town or in the village, I'll be able to face you because I was truthful. I was truthful. I was about to say I'm a truthful man. So being truthful is one thing.
Yeah.
The other issue you have raised is about networking, and people who fund you also want something in return, but not all of them. There are people who look for potential leaders, especially people who have a budget. A governor has a huge budget. President has a huge budget, and also to an extent, an MP has a budget as well. So there are those people who would conspire to fund you for a political position because they want to do business with you, or because they want to help you do business. I'll give an example with Kiharu and also Makueni. The MP for Kiharu has been able to do so much, not because he's allocated a lot of money. He's allocated the monies that other MPs are getting. But he's a good example. He was not doing business, unlike other members of National Assembly who are not happy with him because he has been able to deliver with the same resources that they have. That other matter is about Makueni. And Makueni, I don't know about Makueni now, but we can talk about Makueni when Professor Kibwana was the governor for the last 10 years. And it is that governance there embraced public participation.
Massively.
Because a politician or people in leadership would want to do mega projects so that they can reward the funders in the process. But the Makueni process was that you go to the public has to identify a project, and I'm sure you have had counties do budgeting. They also are able to do county integrated development projects. And most of these are just wishful thinking. County government would call for, is it sabotage?
No, it's gone off. Just keep going.
Okay, county government or government for that matter would do public participation, not for anything, but just as optics and cosmetic. And I would say, giving an example with a county, that you must come up with an integrated development plan for 5 years, and what is not provided in that CIDP cannot be budgeted for. So you see county governments going out there, coming up with very beautiful CIDP, and you have engaged community, but it is upon leaders to choose which project to do. Of course, most leaders would choose a project that is mega enough, has a lot of monies allocated to it or resources. And big projects do not mean that they have an impact on the ground. But I must say, with Makueni, you saw community coming into being. That's why you saw in 2018, Kibwana had said, can we just dissolve this county government?
Yes.
Because most of the leaders there were dealers. And there is someone who funded you, who wants business from you, but the business he wants is not the same business that people on the ground want. So business people can be a great hindrance to good leadership in the country, because on one hand, you need the resources. On one hand, they need to do business, but we can also do ethical biashara. Lastly, on county government, county governments have now embraced paying lawyers a lot of monies actually, and no offense to those guys who have done law actually, but I don't think you can quantify the services they give and the goods. For example, someone who has done an infrastructure, be it a road, be it a hospital. So that is something that should be looked into. Why are governors so much into paying lawyers and law firms and not paying those guys who have done hospitals or schools? That is something that we have to look into. Is there any kind of biashara that is going on as far as that issue is concerned? Yes.
Very well. Now, still sticking to around Kiharu and Makueni.
Yes.
Do you think there's a special kind of civic education which was conducted in those two regions, those two counties, as compared to other areas, or is civic education tokenistic, in your opinion?
I would say a leader. Ndede Nyoro and Kibwana have been very deliberate on engaging the community. You have to be deliberate to engage the community. No, this is not to say guys of Makueni are more informed of guys of Kiharu are more informed. Is that a leader has brought information. This is what we want to do in this particular area. What is your input? It is a leader being deliberate on engaging the people and also doing meaningful public participation, not just doing public participation for the sake of doing it because it is captured in Article 10. You are doing it because you want the input of that county or nationally. Yeah.
Now, Cyprian, as you get into this leadership position,
yes.
With time, as we progress towards 2027, you will, in one or another, be politically profiled by your competitors. That comes with the game.
Yes.
Such that people will go into your closet and look for all kinds of things if they're there. Now, moving towards that particular point of election, what has been the most difficult decision you've been forced to make, be it at personal level or be it at your household level, that would, in one or another, compromise your vision of being a governor for Nairobi?
I am a very fortunate man. I've been to jail, including committee maximum prison, in the year 2001. And so, what is going to happen is that I have attended many universities. I've attended this university. I've attended the University of Life. I've attended the University of Committee. The University of Committee. I'll be one of those very difficult people to find things because I've lived my life with the people. That's why they call me Mutumishi. I've lived my life in the trenches with the people continuously. And anything that we did was very accountable. When I was the CEO of the NCEC, this was a national organization. I was the CEO for several years, and I was program officer. I have sat on boards of many organizations and companies. One of the things that you have to do is that you have to be inspired by somebody in life who you want to follow. And I chose Lee Kuan Yew. I chose Lee Kuan Yew. Lee transformed Singapore because of the three ethos, the pillars of Singapore's transformation is what Lee Kuan Yew called MPH. He said, this country is going to transform on the foundation of meritocracy. And the water is really, but they need it, so let them go on. So the first pillar was M, meritocracy. Then there was pragmatism, and then there was honesty. If you are guided by these principles that Lee used, even in Kenya, what's going to happen is exactly what the Honorable Few has spoken about. MPH has outlived Lee Kuan Yew. You go to Singapore, every year, I actually take, because I have corporates in Kenya and in East Africa that I take through corporate governance, I deliberately request to fly them to Singapore so that when I'm teaching them and when I am coaching and mentoring board members, I am not theoretical. I take them to Singapore so that they see how a small country the size of Nairobi has been able to become one of the most developed countries on earth, next to their very powerful, very, very powerful neighbors. So I want to say that as I go forward in this endeavor, it is going to be what the Honorable Few has spoken about. It has to be a community Actually, Kenyan politics is going the American way. Remember that Barack Obama was actually funded and taken to the White House by the contributions of small contributors, students, workers, giving $5 a month. But when you have $5 a month times 100,000, then it becomes a lot of money. That is how Barack was able to avoid the big funders. When it's the community which is in the movement and that is pushing for a leadership that they can invest in, then you will deliver because you will not have the burden that is there. So I leave it. It's out there. My colleague, spoke about my profile. My profile is out there in the journey that we've walked over the last 27 years. Has been one of service, one of modeling the things that you say. If you don't model the things that you believe in, then nobody else should believe you. Thank you.
Now, Mheshimiwa, you are in a space where we have very young leaders, be it at MCA level, be it at MP level, upwards. Extremely young leaders and progressively going that route. Are there any leadership traits that you still seek to learn? Or you are at the end of it? Umejua kila kitu?
Hapana, sijajua kila kitu. You have to keep on learning and also unlearning. And also statistics on young people who are in the National Assembly and say County Assembly, it's increasing progressively. One thing is experience. I would give an example with even the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Wetangula. He was not born a speaker, but he was given a chance by the KANU government and he became a nominated MP. And over the years, he has served as a minister. He's not the best example, but I'm just giving him because he is known in the country. And see where he is now. So as young people, we have to start somewhere, be it student leadership, be it in the society, in the church, or in the mosque. We have to start somewhere and keep on learning. Of course, there are those principles of leadership that are common denominator, as Mwalimu has just mentioned here. But we should not be blamed for being young and inexperienced. The Gen Z community, they had never been exposed to leadership position, but whatever was happening in this country didn't sit well with them, and they did what they had to do, and that is come out and chambua the constitution, and also chambua the finance bill, and became informed. So one of the assets that we have as young people is that you must be informed. And when you are given an opportunity, you are able to articulate your issues. And also that other issue is about accountability. Accountability does not start when you become a political leader or a corporate leader. Accountability starts here when you're in the university, be it that you are leading 2 or 3 people or 10 people. Accountability must start there. And also issues to do with public participation, because public participation is key. You cannot lead people because you are a leader. That is not enough. You have to engage people on what they want. And if you take an idea A and leave B, you must also give justification on the same. So learning is continuous. You become a good leader because you are intentional. Because in this country, we also have good leaders. And also we have bad leaders. We can agree on which standards to use, but you must be deliberate. But leadership has to be personal, and also leadership also is a reflection of the society that we serve. For example, the leaders we have in this university, it is to a large extent a reflection of the student population that you have here. Yes.
Excellent. Now, Cyprian, in front of you are students who in future might want to be engaging in elective politics. But we all understand that not all of us can be in elective politics. Some of us have to do the oversight role as citizens. What do you think, or what would you implore upon this audience who will not access spaces of leadership, but can use their power, not only of the vote, but of their voice as young people? What would be your advice to them?
Thank you very much. But first of all, comrades, Hoye. Hi. Rajah, I was in student leadership. So if we are so calm and polite, I start getting a little bit concerned. Comrades, Hoye.
Hoye.
Comrades, Viva.
Viva.
Very good. So now, I want to speak to my comrades very directly and say the following. First of all, I'm now speaking as a political scientist. There are three types of citizens. And this is really from the Hellenic philosophical period of Aristotle and Plato. And the first category of citizens is what we call idiots. Now, idiots is not supposed to mean stupid people. Idiots within the philosophical context, it means people who are detached from public affairs. Then there's a second category, which we call tribalists. These are people who do things because of their ethnicity, religion, that kind of thing. And then there is a small percentage of people in a country that we call citizens. These are people who are active and engaged and concerned. This takes us back to where we started, about demand and supply. It is the citizens who ensure that the demand is strong. And the citizens are normally about 4% of our population. The tribalists are normally about 80%. So that's about 84. So 16% is what we call idiots. These are people who don't vote, they don't register to vote, they don't go out to vote. Some of them are Christians like myself. And you ask them, why don't you vote? Oh, my faith does not allow me not to vote. I don't believe that we have any idiots in the room. We could be having some tribalists, but I want them to be citizens. And the Honorable Fio has just said something, that leadership is personal. It means that you are a woman or a man who has character. We call them the 5 C's of leadership. And I want to speak about them so that I can conclude on that. The first attribute of leadership is character. Are you a person of integrity? Are you courageous enough to stand up for your values, for your beliefs? That's leadership. That's number one. Character. The second thing about leadership is what we call clarity, meaning vision. If you are seated here, at a personal level, you must have a vision of where you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, whether you are going to be married at that time or not, whether you are starting a business, whether you are going for your PhD, where vision is crucial in leadership, clarity. The third, which is lacking massively in our country, it is called compassion. Compassion. Compassion is what drives people to selflessness. The reason Honorable Fio has been elected 3 times in a row is because what got him into leadership was the compassion he felt for his people. He didn't buy them to vote for him. No, they knew. Winston Churchill used to say, I don't care what you know until I know that you care. I don't care what you know until I know that you care. That is compassion. Do you care for your people? That is what is lacking in this country. People don't care for their people. The fourth important pillar, character of leadership is what we call competence. Let me talk about competence before I go to the last one. It's called competence. You can have compassion, you can have clarity, you can have character, but if you are not competent, you are not going to deliver on the role that you have been given. You need to be a competent legislator. You need to be a competent oversight agent. You need to be a competent representative of the people. You need to be a competent governor. The tragedy we have in Kenya is that 85% of the governors are incompetent. They can't budget, they can't plan, they can't... Do you understand what I'm talking about? They simply are incompetent, and they are the ones who are being elected across the country. I have to say this because in the political space, that our president is grossly incompetent. Grossly incompetent. That is the tragedy for Kenya, that we have a president who is grossly incompetent, and your governor, grossly incompetent. The only things that he has is dimples. You understand what I'm talking about? So, competence is so crucial. The last is what we call communications and community. A leader has the responsibility of building community cohesion and communication. Your people must know what you are doing at every stage of the process. So let me see whether they heard what we said. Which was the first one? Character. Why is character number one? Because even if you have all the others without character, you are a dealer. We don't need you. Character starts. What was the second one? Clarity. You need a vision. Where are you going to take Nairobi? Where is Kenya going to be in 10 years' time? If that is where we want Kenya to be, what do we do today so that we can be there? Okay? So what was the third one?
Compassion.
Compassion. For those of you who are Christians like myself, the book of Matthew chapter 9 and verse 37 says that, and Jesus looked at them and felt compassion for them, for they looked like sheep without what? Without a shepherd. A leader must have compassion, what in Kikisi we call amayanda. You must feel something for your people. There is rain in Nairobi, there is flooding, and your compassion is to come and evict people so that you throw them out of their shanty houses, so that they are rained on, they don't have a place to go to. You are evicting people who are actually already in trouble. I'm saying compassion is what lacks in Kenya. When a president, instead of talking to the Gen Zs, what he orders is shoot them down, maul them down, abductions and those kinds of things, tells you that we have a leadership which has zero compassion. So those 5 important pillars of leadership are so crucial. And when you check, if you were to ask Honorable Fio's voters, I interact with them quite a bit, they don't know this criteria. But if you were to give them the questionnaire and say, when it comes to character, what do you think about Honorable Fio? I think out of 10 they will mark. And then you will ask them, does he have compassion? They say, that's why we elected him. Because he has compassion for our situation. You know? And you know the people who, when somebody is in trouble, is when they grab their land. Is when they take down their share. There's NHIF which is working, then you remove it so that they can die in masses. That is total lack of compassion. This greed, this callousness is what is destroying our country.
Now, lastly, Mheshimiwa, before I open it up to plenary, yes. Uraia, represented by Alois at the end there, their mandate is anchored around empowering us to be active citizens and engaged. But Cyprian has just articulated what our DNA challenge is on either side. Now, do you think we as citizens, we vote without having studied our potential leaders, or do we simply do not get that picture so that this person becomes this person when they're in office? Where is the disconnect?
Before I answer that one, I would want to comment on the three categories you have given of idiot, tribalist, and citizen. And I must say, you choose on which one to be, but there's a permanent one. That office called the office of the citizen. You're going to be a citizen forever. You might not, you might aspire to be many things, but that office is a residence. So we should aspire to be citizen and to guard that office of the citizen. Okay, what was your question?
My question was, based on what he has alluded to, the challenges that our leaders, we end up having leaders who are grossly, borrowing his words, incompetent in office. As citizens who have been empowered on our civic rights and responsibilities, who are now supposed to be vibrant and engaged in politics, how do we end up electing these people? Do we not interrogate these people we are electing, or these people are so wise such that they give us a certain demeanor when we are voting, and then once we're in office, we get a different demeanor? Because people yell that our leaders are bad people, but the leaders are the reflection of the society.
Thank you. Indeed, the leaders that we have are a great reflection of who we are as citizens. And to start with is that we must, as citizens, we must be deliberate about politics, political processes, and also join or form political parties. Because a lot of challenges that we have as a country start with political formations. And there are people who have even made political parties to their businesses. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I consider ODM as a very big
PLC,
a very big business venture,
limited.
Yeah, for someone, and they are very much organized. And so is other party. As much as I'm also in Jubilee, we also have our issues, and so is UDA. So as young people, we must take that challenge, either form a political party or join a political party, and do not just join a political party and be relegated to a youth wing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing much that is happening in a youth wing or a women league. You must go into the substantive positions of that political party, be it the NEC, or National Management Committee of such parties. But the owners of these parties make sure that young people or women are just there as cheerleaders. You just be there and you have a very decorated position. You are the youth president. And that one doesn't help you because there's nothing much you can discuss there. And the main things are being discussed in the NEC meetings, in the National Management Committee. So the first thing is we must get into these political parties or even choose to even vie as independent candidate. So tribalism and political parties have brought us where we are. Mm. Because you are given 6 ballots. Maybe you are so much eager to vote for a president, but you do not care who becomes your senator. You care so much who becomes your governor, but senator is equally important because the senator is the one who appropriates and allocates the funds that goes to the county and also oversight. You do not care so much who is your MCA. Oh. And these are the grassroots leaders. For example, Nairobi has a budget of almost 40 billion. But you did care who was your MCA, whether he has capacity. Capacity we can discuss because capacity, you can acquire capacity over time. But being incompetent, there are people who are incompetent professionally. Mm. So we must be aware as citizens. And I must say tribalism, because our political parties have been captured. That's why you see people would pump a lot of money into forming political parties. Like for now, we are waiting His Excellency, the impeached deputy president, to also launch his political party, the Wamunyoro party. And there are people maybe in central Kenya who are going to be MPs and MCAs, not for anything, but because they are associated with Wamunyoro. Mm. And there are people who are going to be MPs in Nyanza because they are affiliated with ODM. In Nairobi, you can even look at the candidates that we have for governor. They are fighting to go on one side. Because when you're on that side, you're halfway you're halfway there. And I also liked the mantra by the Gen Z when they say they are tribal, they are partyless. They do not have a leader. And me, I liked that they didn't have a leader because you wanted to know who is their leader so that you can abduct them, so that you can call them to the table and coerce them. So I liked the mantra that they had. So, but as far as politics is concerned, we have to be deliberate as young people. We cannot just wait for these people who have been here for years to manage our resources. And resources are in government, they are in county government. So I implore upon you, go for those positions. Yeah, even aspiring is enough. Aspiring to be an MCA is enough. Aspiring to be an MP is enough. Aspiring to be a governor is enough. Aspiring for any other position. But you aspire and you have to do what it takes. You have to go back to the community. You must have your community behind you and make sure that your community has a buy-in. Lastly, how many of us are in political parties here?
Members of political parties.
Political parties, okay, that is good. So you have a chance to join a political party,
11.
Or to even form one. And if these are the ambassadors we are sending out there, and they are not politically aware, what about my shosho? What about my guka? So we must be good ambassadors and be informed to go out there. If we do not do that, politicians will always take advantage of us.
That's right.
Because I just need to know, elections are just around the corner. I have amassed all the wealth, I have stolen all the millions from the county and come back to you. And waambie vijana hoye. That is not maendeleo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I'll open it to the members. If there is a question or a comment on the basis of what Cyprian and the Honorable Member have submitted.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. My name is Gloria Moniva, a student at J-Watt University. Okay. Outgoing deputy speaker for the student union, aspiring for the academic affairs secretary. I have two questions. So the first question is to Honorable Cyprian.
Yes.
I'd like to ask on when we say activism and transition to politics, don't we think that there's lower level of activism or a space left in activism? Secondly, for those we have witnessed, for example, the Honorable Mohammed for Jopebu, his transition from activism within the media to now politics has resulted in very low exposure on the crimes and theft that are happening in the public spaces. What's your comment on that? And then to Honorable Kamal, Phil, I'd like to ask first, even when the young people tried to say tribeless and partyless, we were still condemned that we are trying to bring a state of anarchy. That's the first thing. And secondly, for the young people who are trying to even register for a political party, it has been a lot of issues because we are young. The third thing is being identified as a generation instead of ideology is somehow favoring what we want to bring to the table. What is your comment on that? And lastly, the comments on the Karura forest, which is part of your work, the Greenpeace Africa, which has fronted the issues on deforestation and logging against, that was lifted in 2023. And now the KFS is trying to say that they're trying to replace the exotic trees with indigenous. What's your comment on that? Okay. And why are we not hearing any university mobilization to start for that?
Very good question.
Good.
Hello. Maureen. I am not a student, Sudha. I am just a student. My question would be, we've had you state the problems that are going on in Kenya, and we've not had to give solutions. So what are the solutions that you want to give us? Because we're the people maybe voting for you.
Thank you.
My second question is, we have had you say that us as students should do this and should do that, but what pathways are you creating for us to be able to do that? Or is it just about your generations and telling us you should do that, but you're not giving us the spaces to
Very good.
My name is Emmanuel Ruto. I'm proud of the name.
Yes. Own it.
I'm proud of the name.
Yeah.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
It's not about an individual because maybe we have different personalities. So
Sure.
I am a delegate elect. My first question is to Cyprian Excellency. You said you've been an activist, yes, and we've known for a very long time activists in Kenya. You see the way the likes of Miguna, the way they approach politics. So activists are not popular people in the ground. So what is your approach? How are you going to approach your political, your campaign to make sure that you are popular in the ground?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like, how are you going to do it? Because you see, the people who are popular in the ground are these people who are like tribalists, people who are of these political parties, people who are incompetent, people who are accepted in the ground are these people who can make jokes with the people in the ground, people who are corrupt. So, like, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get to the ground? My second question is to Mheshimiwa MCAs. You talked about the 12 billion scandal in the government, something like that. What is the action you've taken in the county assembly? Because you have the critical role of doing oversight. What have you done? Which step have you taken? Yeah?
Thank you.
Yes, there's a lady.
Thank you. Thank you. Accountability.
Yeah, Emmanuel.
And I have one question to the Secretary. So, during the discussions, you mentioned that you're interested in gubernatorial position in Nairobi. And you also say that there are resources in Nairobi. Being an urban center, first of all, what are the various resources in Nairobi? And if you are elected to be the governor, how will you ensure that those resources are utilized? What will you do different? Thank you.
Yeah, what is different from statistics?
Correct. Come again about your name? Fadina. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I remember that face.
Yeah. So on the discussion, it's also clear that we have people with invested interest, and sometimes it comes those people who are trying to elect good leaders, don't know what's happening once they get there. So my question would be, how do you even as you try to question their medical platform and still trying to protect yourself so that you don't end up being arrested in the
Thank you.
Thank you. Why are we not appreciating Fadina? Enrico? Hello? Yeah, Emma.
I have a question on how you categorize the people. Say they are the idiots and the tribalists and the citizens. So the tribalists are the bigger percentage.
Massive.
Yeah. So my question is, how do we convert these tribalists to be citizens without actually destroying the community? Because being tribal cannot be. It's not that bad. Someone is too proud of their land. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Aspirant in JQuat, a potential aspirant for the MP seat in
Kiminini.
And from ODM, yes?
Now, me and you are both aspirants in PhDs.
Yes.
And there is one thing that has been shocking me and I've seen try to raise it. There is this aspect of the human nature. It is like a human to crave for comfort. And when we are craving for power, most of the time we wish to serve the people. What are you planning to do when you get there, such that that comfort that your body wants how are you going to control it so that you serve the people and not your body? Because most of the time, you're around resources, those billions that you are talking about, you're around them. What would you do to avoid that comfort, desire for comfort?
Thank you.
Kenya are managed through Forest Conservation and Management Act. We have an act of parliament that came into being in 2009, and it has been amended in 2016 and 2018. So forest in Kenya, in this case, Karura is managed by government of Kenya through Kenya Forest Service and people who live around Karura Forest. So we have formed a vehicle called Friends of Karura Community Forest Association. So those are the two vehicles that manage and conserve Karura. So I serve in Friends of Karura, which is a community forest association, as a civilian watchdog. So when we took over this forest back in 2010, when now there was a fence that was done, there are structures of how you are going to govern that forest. A study was done, and 75% of trees in Karura were exotic trees. And Wangari Maathai told us that plantations are dead forests.
Yeah.
A tree is not just a tree. There are trees that are not supposed to be. For those people who understand biodiversity, there are trees that are not supposed to be in a forest. That we can debate about. And I would give an example with eucalyptus. There's nothing much that grows underneath a eucalyptus because there are some chemicals that it emits that does not allow biodiversity to thrive. So to manage Karura, we are in our 4th cycle of management plan, and this management plan is quite participatory. So we have a participatory forest management plan dating back to 2010. After every 4 or 5 years, we have to come up with a management plan that is approved by the community, and we define community as anyone who lives adjacent the forest or anyone who has a personal interest of that forest. So we have a management plan. And from 2010, we started the process of removal of exotic trees from Karura. And the exotic trees were so numerous because Karura has a colonial legacy. So the colonialists made sure that they have planted a lot of exotic trees, eucalyptus, for their factories. So from 2010, this is a process that has been continuing, but we have done it in a sustainable manner. And when I say we have done it in a sustainable manner, our interest, and even in this regard, the Swahili says that mugala muue na haki mfanye nini?
Umpe.
I'm not here to defend the president of this country, but as far as Karura is concerned, he is not involved. It is us as community who wrote to, and by community I mean Friends of Karura, it is us who wrote to Kenya Forest Service and told them because now the national moratorium on forest has been uplifted, we would want to continue with the removal of exotic trees in Karura. So as far as bidding is concerned, you do the bidding. As we just want you clear, then we have capacity of planting the same. So that is what is happening in Karura, Monyiva. Do you have contrary information? Yes. Yes.
I understand the process, they do respect it, but after the Climate Change Act in 2016, and taking to the note that right now we're facing adverse climate change, don't you think it was better, or it would have been better if major public participation was considered?
Exactly.
Because right now it's affecting the entire Nairobi County, not just the community.
So you have a point as far as public participation is concerned, but I want to, as far as us public participation is concerned, I know Karura is a national forest.
It is.
It is a national, and that's a fact that we acknowledge. And it is a community forest as well. But there's something I call tragedy of community. Everyone would say, this is our forest, this is a forest. And when there is time to take responsibility, no one comes up. So that's why we have Friends of Karura who takes that responsibility. And that's why I can stand here and answer you. And whatever is happening, we have tried. If you have been to Karura, I know you know Wangari Maathai Corner. All that area, trees were cleared when Karura had been grabbed. And through the Miyaki way of planting trees, we have planted them back, and they are back.
The story of Karura is very, very personal. And I'm using that to answer the first question from Wavinya. Was it Wavinya?
Yes.
Munyiva. Yes, Munyiva. Glory. Is that I am not transitioning from activism. I am transitioning from the demand side to what?
Supply.
The supply side. My mentor, Professor Wangari Maathai, died an activist. Are you with me up to that point?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Activism is a very proud calling. When you are called an activist, it should mean honor. But in Kenya, people look at activists and they are like, oh, no, that's an activist. He cannot or she cannot. No. Activism is a statement of, I am responsible. I am a responsible citizen. Active, and on Rufio has added, I am proactive. I'm not only active, I'm also proactive. Are you with me? That's the meaning of activism. So I am not transitioning from activism to politics. No, that's a lie. I am actually transitioning from the demand side, where I've invested my 27 years of service, to serving in the demand side of governance, because there are two sides of governance. There's the demand side and there is the supply side. So Honorable Fio is on the supply side, translating the demands into policy, into program, into deliverables. So that's the first thing that I wanted to respond to pretty quickly. And then there was a question from Maureen. What are the solutions? Because you've been speaking about the problems. Now, what we have prepared, which we are going to publish on my birthday, May 4th, is what we are calling the New Deal for Nairobi. In 2 years ago, we published the New Deal for Kenya. The New Deal for Kenya, and now we are going to talk about the New Deal for Nairobi. The New Deal for Nairobi as a proposal on 10 deliverable areas of delivery, KRAs, key result areas. So there are 10 of them, and we have looked at the current deal, and we are proposing the new deal for Nairobi. In terms of the 10 areas, what's the current state, and what is the new deal if we are going to transform Nairobi? So in terms of the solutions, we are very invested in that. Myself, I've been involved in about 4 presidential campaigns. I've been involved in gubernatorial elections, including the Makueni one, which I spoke about. And we are very, very clear. But then I'm one of the very fortunate Kenyans. When I was only 21 in 1997, I chaired Charity's campaign, presidential campaign, at 21. As the chairperson of CNN, the Charity Ngilu Network, countrywide. We had students from Jomo Kenyatta, students from Maseno across the country. And we campaigned for charity, and we did a wonderful job without money, without anything. And I still remember 1997, and Betty, probably 90% of the people in the room were not born in 1997. That I know, because I told you these are my nieces and my nephews. So I've responded to Maureen as regards what are the solutions to the problems. My life is policy. My life has been policy. And in policy, we have 3 Ps: the problem, the politics, and the program. We conceive the problem, we look at the politics of it, because you have to negotiate, and then you do the program, which is the solution, the response to the problem. So that has been my life. And I've been involved in so many legislations, so many policies that have continued to impact the country. Now, what are the avenues for Gen Z to participate? Gen Z were very strong in mobilization, but extremely weak in organizing. Extremely strong in what? In mobilization, because the tools for mobilizing were available, but they were not organized. Going forward, we are working with them because when we were in university and in student leadership, we had 5 generations in the movement. If you came to Fungamano, Ger, when we were meeting, there was Mzee Getu Wakahengeri, who was in Mau Mau.
Veteran.
There was the Kibaki generation, the 1930s. There was the Raila generation, the 1940s. Then there was the Akinamugisa Kitui Kibwana generation. Then there was the 1960 generation of Akina Wafula Buke. And then us in the 1970s. We do not want to expose and leave our young people to be slaughtered as if we are not there. And so we are stepping in, and I like what Professor Kibwana has called it. We are moving from Gen Z to Gen Zote. Gen Zote. The next phase is going to be Gen Zote. All of us are going to be involved, and we have a solution for that. And without wondering who is in the room and who is not in the room, I actually do not believe that President Ruto is going to be president until 2027. The solution for how that is going to happen, in the next few weeks, you will hear the announcement. We have a very, very good constitutional amendment bill, which will allow us to exercise Article 1.
Directly.
In fact, I think I'm going to forget. The reason we are in this room is because of Urahia. The reason we formed Urahia when we were in NCEC and the forces and all the organizations that came together to form Urahia was so that we can be able to grow active citizens in Kenya. And don't you think we have done a good job? Yes, we've tried. Urahia continues to do a marvelous job. Across the country, they have civic educators in all the 290 constituencies. Just to imagine. So we know that more can be done, but something is being done and it's contributing to a lot more. And so, apart from Maureen asking about the avenues, and Ruto asked about activism on the ground. Activists are not elected. People who are elected are the ones who have money. And I don't come from the tradition of murmuring. In the book of Philippians chapter 2, murmuring and complaining is equated to unbelief. So the whole of my life, I don't complain. And I don't murmur. I do something. That is how we delivered the Constitution of Kenya. We buried a lot of people to get the Constitution. I attended many funerals across the country. I was the executive director. I was the national CEO. And I was 29. So I attended funerals of people who fought for the Constitution from Taita Taveta all the way to Siaya. Like Kipia, we buried a lot of them in Nyahururu there. People who... So I have been there. I don't complain. I take responsibility and we do something and it leads to Kenya being a better place. So, Emmanuel, I want to tell you that on the ground, we know that that is what is prevailing. But I'll tell you the secret of transformation and change. In Pan-Africanism, we say, don't agonize, organize. If there's something you are going to, even if you forget everything I've said here today, that is the maxim that you should live life with. Don't agonize, organize. That's what we are doing in Nairobi. We are organizing. Forming 17 constituency secretariats. We are forming the ward committees. We are forming the household committees. Those of you who are in the Catholic Church know of the small Christ, Jumuiya and Ogondogo. We want to establish Jumuiya and Ogondogo. We want Nairobi to be for Nairobians. And this is going to succeed. We are not going to lament about how we don't have money and you know how criminals and drug dealers are elected and comedians. It's us who have allowed it. So we are saying in 2027, we've started the mobilization and the organizing early. and the structures are going to be there by December this year. The Nairobi People's Government is what we are going to use to deliver Nairobi. It will not be an effort of the governor alone. It's going to be the effort of every Nairobian. We want to strengthen the demand side, which is dead in Nairobi, so that the supply side will be guaranteed. Otherwise, if you don't do what I'm proposing of building a good system, the bad system will continue. You have to organize people and build the good system. In change management, we say the good system should overwrite the bad system. If you don't do that, then you have to continue with the bad system, look for money, bribe, get elected. The demand side is dead, the supply side is dead. Why? Because you didn't change the system. You just went and said, which tribe is going to vote for me? Which party do I need to be? Where is the money? Bribe, get elected, you are in office. The following day, the president says, bring the money. Give Sudi the garbage collection tender. Why? Because he's the one who brought you to power. Are you with me? So the people, it's not the people. So we must do the hard work of building a good system from Nairobians, from their household, their block, all the way to the constituency and county level. That's what we are going to do, and we are going to succeed. The Bible says, without faith, you can't please God. And I'm telling you, young people, have faith in God and in yourself. I was very fortunate because the high school I went to, Homa Bay School, was built by the late T.J. Mboya, Thomas Joseph Mboya. The thing about Mboya is that he built our school when he was only 29. And he was assassinated at 39. But he had achieved everything in the world that anybody can achieve. So when you walk into Homa Bay School, you become radicalized immediately. Mm-hmm. You just become, you believe in yourself. Because if Tom could do that, as a young man, 22, 26, 29, at 26 he had been elected the African Secretary General of the Federation of African Trade Unions at 26. So it means you can do it, isn't it? Can you do it? Yeah. If you could do it when they didn't have even phones, even the landlines, why can't you do it today with what you have? You can do it, isn't it? Yeah. Right now, we have formed 17 WhatsApp groups. We've formed 85 Word WhatsApp. It's so easy to do it now. We have the resources. And so excuses is what you have to remove as part of your life. If you are not progressing, it's because you are giving an excuse. I'm talking to you now as your mentor. That's what part of what Badili Africa does, is to mentor you. And I'm telling you that if there's something you are not doing well in your life, there are a few excuses around that area. Even your girlfriend, if you don't like her and you are not doing something about it, there are a few excuses you are giving there. Even your boyfriend, let me be on the both sides. Okay, so now, very quickly, so that Kimberly asked tough questions. Where's Kimberly? Where? Did you hear the questions? What are the resources in Nairobi? And the Honorable Fio has answered you very well. Nairobi's main resource is the 5.8 million residents. That is Nairobi's resource. The others are secondary. Nairobi's principal resource is people. And let me tell you, Africa is not going to be transformed because of minerals. Africa is going to be transformed because of its 1.4 billion people. If you invest in the people, they are the best resource for your transformation. They will do everything. They will innovate, the 5 I's, as we call them, in transformation. They will invent, they will innovate, they will improve, they will invest, there's a 5th I. I don't remember what one it is. Mm-hmm. You are students and you have a smartphone, so check what the 5th I is. The people of Nairobi should be enabled to invent, improve, invest, innovate, and something else. That's the biggest resource. The other resources are, of course, our products, our works, and our services, which Honorable Few has spoken about. Fadina wondered what happens to activists. And Madina attended one of my seminars at the Strathmore University on leadership development. Is that the one? Yes. I teach, I offer these seminars with the Strathmore University, Catholic University, and we also do some work with the Jaramogi and a few other universities. Now, there is something I want to tell you today. There is nothing like activists who change. Just look at the track record of the person. Track record. Let me make it lighter, Ger, with your permission. What is Honorable William Ruto's track record?
Selling chicken.
In public life, forget about what is his record in public life. We meet him in 1992 as YK92. That's when we encounter him. What has been his history in public life? Ngong Forest land grabbing, then so and so, then corruption, then May scandal, then this scandal, then this scandal. Then the 2007 elections violence, then another one. And you are telling me that you are now surprised? About what? What are you surprised about? The track record is there. The pattern is there. What is Professor Kivuza Kibwana's pattern? When he was Dean of Students, Dean of Law, what was his record when he was at Clarion, the Center for Law? What about when he was at Uraia? What about when he was at NSEP? What about NCEC? What about Member of Parliament for Makueni? What about minister? There's a time he was a minister for land and environment. 2 ministries at the same time, under Kibaki. What was the track record? Is there a scandal there? So how then do you get surprised when he becomes governor and he delivers with integrity? There's track record. There's track record. What about somebody who comes with wash money and becomes MP? People are not asking, have you ever worked in public life? How was it? Then people say, oh, we are so surprised. Why are you surprised? Just look at the track record. Look at the track record. The Honorable Uru, your party leader,
Yes.
was a total disaster as a Minister for Finance. My friend, myself and Mwalimu Mati at Mars Group, you were there, you heard. We actually, when he was Minister of Finance, found that he had stolen 9.8 billion shillings in the budget as Minister for Finance under Kibaki. And then, first of all, they said, oh, this is a computer error. It was something else. Oh, no money has been lost, but we caught him. So what is the track record? Track record is that you give him power, you expect something to happen, a disaster to happen there. Then how do you get surprised when he becomes president, and then we borrow 7 trillion and we can't locate it? You don't get surprised. Are you with me now? I know people are looking at me and saying, is this one even going to reach home today?
They want to abduct you.
I'm the only one who has the authority because I am Professor Wangari Maathai's an enjoyer and a Kibwana. I have the license to say these things and I go home. After all, which jail will they take me? They have taken me to all of them. 19 times is many. Isn't it? Yeah, so we know each other. They know where we stand and we know where they stand. So I came here the reason Betty insisted is because this is how you mentor people. This is how people gain courage. This is how you become revolutionaries. Because you meet a revolutionary and he's not dead. I should have come with Okayo, isn't it? Yeah, you have to pay a price for you to be remembered, for you to become somebody. Few years paid the price. You have to pay the price if you are going to make a mark. Now, let me conclude. Emma asking about tribalists and how do we turn them into citizens. That's the work of Uraia. That's the work we have come here to do today. Today, we have come to recruit you as ambassadors. This is how Jesus did it. He built a system. We are building a system. Uraia is building a system. It's planting a seed through Badili Africa at JKU Art. So we have come here, and you are more than 50. These people are many. You alone, and let me say something that you need to hear, which is important. By the way, out of this room, we are going to have cabinet secretaries. In this room. Somebody should have said amen. There's going to be a member of parliament. Amen. There's going to be a governor. Amen. There's going to be principal secretaries. Amen. Okay? So we are going to have innovators. We are going to have revolutionaries from this room because you attended this meeting today. It's going to bear massive fruit from the work that we've done. And then Oliver Njeru, I hope I got it right, about USAID and the crisis of dependency. I saw Honorable Uhuru saying, oh, we can't depend. What did he do when he was president? What did he do to remove dependency from Kenya? Now he's out, he can come and say, why are you? It's not your money, it's American money. What did you do when you were president to get Kenyans out of dependency? But I come from a constituency in Kisii where Nyachai is running.
Ford people.
On Ford people. And so I go there and I'm campaigning for Mwai Kibaki. Let me tell you, I didn't have a car those days and everything else. So I'm in a matatu. From Kisii town going home, and I'm telling people, these your votes here, you are just going to vote for Nyachai and they will not become president. The whole of Kenya has agreed it's Mwai Kibaki. Do you know, Ger, I had somebody say, simamisha hiyo gari. Huyu mtu toa yeye kwa hii gari na mrudishie fare yake. And it was at 10 in the night. The matatu was stopped, I was thrown out, and I was given my 50 shillings. My 50 shillings. So don't worry. There are a few people in this country who have to stand for what is right, even if the skies fall. Some of those people are like myself. Don't worry, because you can never lose anything when you stand for what is right. You can't lose anything. When you stand for what is right, you can't lose anything. And that is what has kept some of us alive. When the young people were registering me out there, they saw my ID, 13, and they're like, hey, you're a grandfather. But how come you don't look it? Say, it's because I go to my house and I sleep. I've never stolen anybody's anything. And I believe that we are changing the country. Every day we are changing this country. The number of cases we are filing in court and winning, the amount of corruption we have stopped. We've stopped Adani, we've stopped everything. That's our work. That's what we do every day with my colleagues like Onyonka, Honorable Mtata, and the others. That's the work we do. And we are friends and birds of a feather. We are changing this country. You are stepping forward. You will help us to create a country that all of us will hand over to our children, and we will be very proud that when that happened, I was there, and I didn't keep quiet, I did something. May God bless you. Thank you so much.
So, thank you so much. I think, is it a question? Concerns.
Okay, I'm Banas Kobayo, and I have a concern. You have talked about our interests, especially from this. I would request, if possible, tell us now your interests. Once you get there, your interest, because your interest must be bigger than ours. So you could respond your interest rather than ours. Express your interest.
Oh, No, I declare that you might, Obayo, is it Obayo? Obayo, you must have missed when that question was asked, and no, by Gair, I already answered it. For me and the friends like Kibwana and others, this for us is a struggle we chose. When we were very young, we chose. It is a struggle we chose. We were part of the first liberation. I've told you we were with Akina Muzegetu Wakangeri, those who brought independence to Kenya. We, as university students, chose to be part of the second liberation, and we delivered the Constitution. In our lives now, we are at a place where we want the Constitution we fought for to lead to the third liberation, which is the economic and social liberation of our country. That is the ideological interest we have in Kenya. That what we started, the child we birthed, we don't want that child to die. You don't understand where the problem in Kenya is. It comes from the fact that the people who campaigned against the Constitution, like the Honorable Ruto, William, is the one who has been given the duty to implement a constitution he campaigned against, which is why he's killing it every day. Go to Article 37, and the more if I had time, I would have taken them through the constitution very quickly, but we don't have the time. You did that. Article 37 says that the people have a right to assemble, to process, to demonstrate, to petition government peaceably. Why do you kill children when they are only carrying the Kenyan flag? It's because you don't believe in that constitution. The constitution is an inconvenience to the people in power today. That's why they have to go. So that we put in place men and women who are part of the struggle, who are committed to the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo. Which is the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo bio? It is in the first stanza of the national anthem. I want us to do the Kiswahili version of it, because the English version is corrupted. No, you will see shortly. E Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu. Number one, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi. Number two, na tukae na undugu. Be slow, na undugu. Then number three, amani. Then number four, uhuru. Number five, raha. Number six, ustawi. Those are the 6 aspirations that make the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo. That's the meaning of Kenya Bora Tuitakayo. That is the country our forefathers died fighting for. That we died fighting for in the second liberation. That we are fighting for now. The Gen Zs are fighting for that Kenya. Where ustawi, number 6, prosperity becomes a reality. We don't want a country where 80% of young people below the age of 25 are unemployed. That's not the prosperity that we fought for at independence in the second liberation. That's not what we are looking for in the third liberation. So I am inviting all of you to become part of the third liberation struggle for Kenya. And by the way, people like President Obama do not make money when they are president. They make money once they are out of the presidency. Everybody wants them to be a speaker, to be a consultant, to be an advisor. So you will see him one day is in Hong Kong, advising on how multinational companies can do business in Cuba, can do business in America. That's why Obama is a billionaire now, when he was not one, when he was president. That's why Kibwana is in a place now where he's being called. I've been meeting Maraga This week he's in Senegal, next week he's in Liberia, the next week he's in Germany, the next week he's being called now by Supreme Courts to tell them, how do you manage election petitions? He's now making money in retirement that he didn't make when he was a judge of the Supreme Court. So, Gair, I want young people to know that life is about legacy. Legacy is what life is about, not what you earn today, but live for legacy. That's why Martin Luther King Jr. is more known than 90% of American presidents. He was never elected a president, but the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. is greater than that of American presidents who have served in the Oval Office. Legacy is what you fight for. Legacy. It's the most, everybody in this country knows about Dedan Kimathi Washuri. You never met him, you never saw him, you don't even know where he's buried. But his legacy is bigger than everybody else. So that is what I wanted to encourage my brother, actually not my brother, my son. That all of you are being called to be part of the third liberation, because Frantz Fanon, please write that down. I want you to Google Frantz Fanon.
Third and final liberation.
The third and final liberation is our socioeconomic. So Frantz Fanon says the following, that every generation out of relative obscurity must identify their historical mission and either fulfill it or betray it. Your generation must, out of relative obscurity, identify your historical mission and either fulfill it or betray it. But your generation does not look like you are going to betray it. You will fulfill it. And may God bless you. Thank you so much.
So I think Badili has done an excellent job to convene this esteemed gentleman here to come and speak with us today. And I think now it's your duty now to keep pressing on Betty or Alois to probably connect you further to them. So that in your journey, for those of us who are transitioning from the elective position you were elected in, these are mentors by default. And I would actually implore upon you to seek to be mentees to them, because you can see what they are doing, and it also speaks to your journey as students who are here and who are transitioning. Sinsawa. So we thank you so much for your time, and definitely we thank you for making time to come here also.
Thank you so much.
So can we make one round of applause for them?